Chapter 10, Eyewitness. The girls had never ridden their bicycles this far before. Pedaling down Jefferson Street wasn't hard because it was mostly flat, but it was cold and the wind was blowing hard. When they reached 8th Avenue, Abby could see the Capitol building sitting on top of an Indian mound. "Follow 8th Avenue to Church Street," she called to Patsy. She could hear Patsy panting as they pumped up the hill. "I need to rest and warm up. Let's stop at the library," she said. They locked their bikes in the library rack. The sky was growing darker and darker. Mrs. Marcella, a library volunteer, nodded as Abby and Patsy came in the front door. They were regulars who came often. Abby liked going in the front door. There was no manager wearing cat-eye glasses pointing an accusing finger in her face, telling her to go away. There were no signs telling her to go around to the back door. Here, Abby could almost forget about race and prejudice. Almost. If only there weren't two drinking fountains, one labeled whites and the other one labeled color. The one for whites was newer looking. The handle was hard to turn on the one for Negroes. They were separate, Abby thought, but they sure weren't equal. "I'm warming up some," said Patsy, getting another swallow of water from the colored fountain. "Let's go." The girls walked straight down Church to Harvey's. Right away, Abby sensed something was wrong. The sidewalks were almost empty. She understood why there weren't any black shoppers going in and out of stores. But where were all the white shoppers? Then they began to hear people shouting and horns honking. As soon as Abby turned the corner, she saw a huge crowd outside Harvey's. Many were teenagers, no older looking than John and his friends. They looked so angry. They were on the sidewalk, in the street, in cars blocking the traffic, horns blasted. "They don't like America? They can go back to the jungle," shouted an angry teenager. "They're not going to destroy our country." "If we lynched a few of them, they'd stay in their place," yelled another. "Let's teach them a lesson," a woman screamed, shaking her fists. Abby had a sick feeling in her stomach. She grabbed Patsy and ducked into an alley. Patsy's eyes stretched in fear. "Abby," Patsy whispered, I didn't know it was going to be like this." "Me either," said Abby. She held on to Patsy and didn't move. Was John inside? Maybe his shift was over. Maybe he'd already left. A moment later, Abby could hear sirens blasting in the distance, growing louder and louder and heading toward them. The girls pressed into the side of the building and peeked around. "Look," said Abby. "The police are coming." In the street, the crowd parted to allow 3 police cars through. Policemen jumped out of the cars. They didn't yell at the crowd or tell people to go home. Instead, they rushed into the store. A few minutes later, they came back out, dragging protesters, handcuffed like criminals. Patsy started crying. "I wish we never came." "Oh no, that's Terry," Abby told Patsy and pointed. "That's John's girlfriend. They're gonna hurt her. They're dragging her like a rag doll." Patsy covered her eyes. Behind Terry, Abby saw someone who looked familiar. He was in handcuffs too. Abby's hand flew to her mouth. "Patsy! That's the guy in the monkey suit, the one from Harvey's." Patsy still wouldn't look, but she said, "White people are in the sit-ins." She sounded surprised. "Quite a few," said Abby. Still no sign of John. Maybe he was already back at the church, eating or taking a nap. Safe. The crowd grew louder. "Shame on you!" They jeered at the guy from the monkey bar. "Put 'em all in jail and throw away the key." Now the police were pushing the protesters into their cars. The lights on top of the police cars started flashing again. The motors revved up. "Wait!" a policeman shouted. "We got one more." Oh, it was John. One officer held him under his arms. Another held his legs. People in the crowd called John names. One man kicked John in the side. A woman holding a little boy spit at him. She told her child to spit on him too. "Stop it!" Abby yelled and started toward John. "No!" Patsy said, pulling her back into the alley. "Don't go. You'll get hurt." Patsy was right. Abby squeezed her eyes shut as John was thrown into the back of the van. Just as the protesters were hauled away, the heavens opened. Rain fell in hard, stinging sheets. Lightning flashed. The crowd ran for cover. Abby and Patsy ran back to the library where their bikes were. "I'm going home, now!" Abby pushed her foot against the kickstand. "We can't, not with the lightning," Patsy said, so they hurried inside. Patsy and Abby leaned against the smooth marble wall. Patsy took deep breaths to calm herself. She kept saying over and over, "This can't be happening. This can't be happening." A rush of questions crowded Abby's mind. Why weren't the white teenagers arrested? They were the ones throwing eggs and hurting people. How long would John be in jail? What if the police hurt John? Maybe Aunt Mitty was right. The rain stopped as quickly as it had started. "Let's get out of here," Patsy said, heading for the door. "Not yet," said Abby, turning to the drinking fountains on the opposite wall. She walked over and took a sip from the colored fountain. Then she leaned over and took a big gulp of water from the white one. Patsy's mouth fell open. "Now," Abby said, "I'm ready to go."